played a little bit of musical chairs while you were gone to see if everybody could see the witness stand. I had it moved, had some chairs moved. Can everybody see the witness stand now? Okay. Mr. Fedoruk, you may call your next witness.
People would call him Matt Giroux. Good afternoon, Sergeant. Could you please state your full name for the record, spelling first and last?
It's Matthew Giroux. Matthew is M-A-T-T-H-E-W. Giroux is G-E-R-O-W.
And how are you employed?
I'm a detective sergeant and public information officer for the City of Saginaw Police Department.
Hold on one second. Mr. Queen, if you could, I know you got back issues. Do you need to lean over like that because you're blocking the juror behind? That's what I was trying to, that's what I was trying to get that line there. So I noticed when you're leaning over, he's leaning over and everybody's about to tip over. So, so that's what I was trying to do. I saw him leaning this morning. So if you don't need to lean over, can you see without leaning over? All right, everybody can see? Yes, yes, move over just a little that way. Okay. Everybody's good. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant, could you please tell the jury how many years in law enforcement total do you have?
26 and a half total, 24 as a police officer.
And then as a detective, how many years?
12.
And how long have you been a sergeant?
I've been a sergeant since 2016.
And is that all in Saginaw?
Yes.
Now, as far as investigating homicides, could you just generally give the jury an indication of your experience with respect to homicide investigations?
Throughout my career as a detective, I've investigated 49 homicides as either the lead investigator or assistant investigator. Throughout my career at the Saginaw Police Department, I've had a hand in either patrol, as a detective, as a sergeant, over 200 homicides.
Now, we've heard some testimony in this particular case regarding a couple of homicides that preceded the Antonio Parham homicide. Did you play any role in the Cameron Pennywell murder investigation?
No, that homicide actually happened when I was promoted to sergeant from detective, so I was on the road at that time, and it didn't happen during my working shift. His brother, however, Brandon Pennywell, I was the detective sergeant overseeing the detectives on that particular homicide.
Okay, and during the course of investigating that homicide, did you have any contact with Elisa Curtis?
I don't believe I ever had contact with his mother, no.
Okay, and then did you have any dealings with Davion Thompson regarding that
No.
investigation?
No.
I'm going to jump forward then to the Antonio Parham murder investigation. What was your role in that particular investigation?
So I was the on-call detective sergeant, and I was at home and I received a call from the road patrol sergeant that there had been a shooting, that it looked like it was going to be a homicide. I'm not sure if the victim was deceased at the time or not, but it was determined that we would come in, and I called in a group of detectives to investigate the incident.
And do you recall the specific date that homicide occurred?
January 27th, 2018, around noon.
And then did you respond to the scene of the homicide?
I did.
Okay. And what address was that again?
It was on Bond and Lion.
All right. 522 South Bond. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there at the scene, did you do anything significant with respect to the investigation at the scene?
Well, prior to arriving at the scene, I was had conversation with the road patrol sergeant in regard to a suspect vehicle that was located at Camelot Apartments by a Saginaw Township police officer. And we were trying to ascertain whether or not it was involved or not. The Saginaw Township police officer ended up running the vehicle's plate and vehicle identification number. And it turned out that the vehicle was in fact registered to Lisa Curtis, who I knew to be the mother of both of the homicide victims, Brandon and Cameron Pennywell. And based on the circumstances, I asked if the condition of the vehicle. That day, it was about 50 degrees in January. It was sunny around noon. The vehicle was underneath, this is an apartment complex, so it was one of those parking structures. It was underneath there. It wasn't in the direct sunlight, and the vehicle's hood was still warm. All of this information was relayed to me, and due to the fact that it was a description was put out over the police radio that it was a black Charger. It was determined that we were going to impound the vehicle and do an inventory search based on our policies and procedures at the Saginaw Police Department. And that was done at the scene there before my arrival. I didn't go to the Camelot. I went to the scene of the homicide.
Okay. And you yourself weren't involved in the inventory of
No.
the Charger, correct?
No,
Now, next, you were involved in interviewing Ms. Curtis on January 30th. Is that correct?
yes,
All right. And then after that, did you have involvement in the search?
yes.
Okay. And what exactly happened there?
So at the search,
First of all, was that pursuant to a search warrant then?
yes.
Okay.
obtained-
And what was the residence?
It was on South Washington. You'd have to repeat the address to me.
Okay. Would it help to refresh your recollection to refer to a report?
Yes. It was 4781 South Washington, according to the police report. Which
Okay.
recollects my memory.
And then the information you had, did you know who lived there, who was of interest in this case?
It was relayed to me by Detective Jacobs that Davion Thompson, the defendant, sitting over next to Mr. O'Farrell, resided there.
Let the record reflect that Sergeant Giroux identified the defendant.
Shall reflect.
And so again, what date did the actual execution of the search warrant occur?
That occurred, I believe, on January 30th.
And would it help to refresh your recollection to refer to the report?
Yes. Oh, that was, I'm sorry, that was actually February 1st.
Now, what rooms were searched inside the house?
All of the rooms inside of the house were searched pursuant to the search warrant. I took place in searching the northeast bedroom.
Okay. And were there any items found there of evidentiary significance?
Yes.
And what was that?
I located underneath the bed a box, and inside that box, I located a bullet. And I believe I also located a spent bullet in the closet on the floor,
Okay. So in the box, it was an unfired bullet?
unfired full metal jacket, I believe.
Okay. And the other item that was was it casing?
Yes.
Just showing you people 24 and 27.
Yes. That is the bullet that was located inside the box.
And then 27?
That's actually a fired bullet, not a casing.
Okay.
Fired portion of the lead from a bullet.
And were you able to determine what kind of bullets they were?
Not the fired bullet. It's just a partial portion of lead. The bullet inside the box was a .40 caliber bullet.
Okay. And both those items, to your knowledge, were they sent in for testing? Do you know?
Yes, by Sergeant Jacobs.
Okay. And are you familiar with what the results of that testing were?
Vaguely, but I couldn't testify to it. Just
That's fine. And then are those photographs 24 and 27, are those true and accurate representations of the items that you saw?
yes.
People would move to admit 24 and 27.
Mr. O'Farrell,
No objection.
exhibit 24 and 27 will both be admitted.
And then were there other rooms inside the house where any items were found?
There was Michigan identification found for Davion Thompson in one of the rooms. I can't recall exactly which room.
And would referring to the report help refresh your recollection?
Sure. Okay, that was located in a cabinet in the southeast basement bedroom.
And
But that wasn't by me.
and were there any other items in any other rooms that were found to your knowledge?
Not by me, but I can tell you what's on the police report.
Okay, no, that's fine. Were you aware of a driver's license being found? Is that something you had knowledge of?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you know which room that was found
in
in?
the basement.
Okay. And anything else you can say about the driver's license as far as identification, whose driver's license it was?
It was the defendant, Mr. Thompson.
All right. And so just to be clear, the mail that was found or the document with Mr. Thompson's name on it and the driver's license with Mr. Thompson's name on it, those weren't found in the northeast bedroom, is that correct?
No,
Okay, different bedrooms.
yes.
All right. So you 56, 65, recognize those?
This indicates, 56 indicates that it is a damaged unknown caliber fired bullet, the lead. Yes, and this is the item that would be in the photograph that you just showed me.
65.
Yes. This would be the live 40 caliber bullet with the markings on the bottom of S&W Smith & Wesson 40 caliber.
People consider it's 53 and 64.
So this is the Michigan identification driver's license of Davion Thompson that was located in the basement. This is a piece of mail from Saginaw County DHS addressed to Davion Thompson, 4781 South Washington Road, Saginaw, Michigan, 48601. Yes.
Quit offering that.
Mr. O'Farrell. So let's try it again. It'll be 53, 56, 64, and 65 in order.
I'm not going to object, Judge. I'm not sure that we really have a foundation on the officer's comment about other officers involved. But based upon his rank as a sergeant and familiarity with the investigation.
All right. 53, 56, 64, and 65 will be admitted.
Your Honor, thank you. I just asked to publish 27 and 24.
All right.
And then after that search of the residence on Washington, was there any other involvement you had in the Parham investigation?
No.
Now, you told the jury a little bit about your experience with homicides, and that's all been in Saginaw, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just have some questions about that. So in your experience investigating these homicides, have you had occasion to come across uncooperative witnesses?
And I'm
Yeah.
going to object. I think this gets into opinion evidence. And this officer is not qualified as an expert as far as a foundation for that. He's had experience in cases. But I would ask that if the court is going to allow this line of questioning, that there be an instruction in regard to his testimony, forming an opinion differentiated from his testimony in terms of the facts of this case.
I'm not sure where the questioning is going to even rule on your objection at this point in time. So I don't, he just merely asked if he had experience with uncooperative witnesses. So I'm not sure where we're going, Mr. Farrell. But at this point, I will overrule your objection, subject to the next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, I'll repeat the question, Sergeant. So in your experience investigating homicides, have you had occasion to come across uncooperative witnesses?
Yes.
All right. And in that experience, have you been able to determine reasons why witnesses tend to be uncooperative?
And
I'll sustain the objection.
thank you, Judge.
Your Honor, I guess before proceeding, I would move to qualify Sergeant Detective Matt Giroux as an expert in homicide investigations.
Mr. O'Farrell.
Your Honor, that's one thing, but opinions about witnesses' credibility or the credibility of people involved in his investigations is a matter of speculation, a matter of his opinion in that regard, and it's also invading the province of the jury. We're going to have extended argument on that, Your Honor. I'm afraid I have to ask that the jury be excused at this point.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go with my clerk, please. Please be seated. The record to reflect the jury is not present at this time. Mr. Fedora, where are we going with this?
Well, Your Honor, first of all, I've gone through this line of questioning at the prior two trials. There wasn't an issue. Basically, this would be analogous to a detective who has extensive experience investigating drug crimes. They're permitted to give an opinion as far as what factors would indicate possession with intent to deliver. This along the same lines, the responses that I'm attempting to elicit from Sergeant Giroux would just be regarding his training, his experience, what he's seen as far as in dealing with witnesses, whether he's had witnesses being uncooperative, whether he's had witnesses being untruthful during the course of investigations, which is something that's quite common in this area and other areas. So all I'm asking is for him to testify to that, which is just based on his experience in the field. I didn't need to move to qualify Detective Giroux as an expert the prior two occasions, and I don't think it's testimony that really requires expert
I don't either.
qualification.
I don't either. That's why I was trying to figure out where were you going, trying to ask him to be qualified as an expert in homicide investigation.
Well, the court sustained the objection, and so that was an alternative that
Wasn't the right alternative. But, okay. Mr. O'Farrell?
Your Honor, there's a key distinction between officers testifying in drug cases regarding intent to deliver based upon quantity, packaging. There's objective factors that a police officer has expertise based upon their experience to provide meaningful information to assist the jury. In this instance, we're talking about issues of credibility of witnesses and the officer's opinion about why they might lie or when they lie. It all is an area where there is no recognized area of being an expert. I don't know who's an expert and who's telling the truth.
Well, first of all, let me stop you both. This is a non-issue. Whether or not people lie for various reasons, it's a non-issue. There would be his opinion. So I'm going to sustain the objection. I'm not going to qualify him as an expert. It's a non-issue why people lie or don't lie in this court's opinion. So let's move past this non-issue.
Thank you.
Okay? Anything else? Okay.
I won't have any further questions.
Well, when the jury comes back in, you can tell us that, okay? Please be seated. Mr. Fedoruk, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I apologize. I actually do have a number of other questions, if I may proceed.
Proceed.
Thank you. Detective Sergeant, just bringing you back to the search at the defendant's residence. In those photographs, well, in the room that you searched, I believe it was the northeast bedroom. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. Was there clothing that you found in there?
yes.
All right. Now, just to kind of cross this bridge, was there anything that was considered as far as testing that clothing for anything?
No,
All right. As far as gunshot residue, that type of testing, was that something that was considered?
no, I've never done gunshot residue testing in any of my investigations.
All right. And can you just explain to the jury why that wouldn't be helpful?
It's very inconsistent. You can't tell when the gunshot, where the gunshot happened. It's very expensive, which normally wouldn't be a factor, but the inconsistencies are just, it doesn't make sense to do it because of the inconsistencies.
Thank you. That's all.
Questions, Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant Giroux, you interviewed Lisa Curtis on January 30th, is that correct?
Correct.
And did other officers or detectives participate in that interview with you?
Yes.
Who else was with you?
Detective Dowd.
Do you know if she was subsequently interviewed? She was interviewed more than once,
I believe so.
but you only did the one time?
Yes.
Now, you obtained or you executed a search warrant on February 2nd, is that correct?
I believe it was the first.
First, I'm sorry. And do you know did you do the affidavit for the search warrant?
No.
Just so, a search warrant gives an officer authority from a judge to search a location. That's
Yes.
basic. And to obtain such a search warrant, an officer must present an affidavit to the judge to show probable cause, or at least their reasoning as to what evidence they're looking for and why it should be in the location that they're going to search. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
But you didn't do that in this case, someone else did?
Yes.
So were you part of the team then that executed the search warrant?
Yes.
So on the February 1st, Davion Thompson was already under arrest, is that correct?
Yes.
So you went to the location on Washington based on information that's where he had resided?
Correct.
And was that a single family home,
Yes.
large house?
I'd say normal size, 12 to 1,500 square feet maybe.
Okay. And it had how many bedrooms?
I believe 3.
Upstairs?
I believe 3 upstairs and 1 in the basement. 1 makeshift bedroom in the basement.
Okay. And did the house appear to be fully occupied?
Yes.
So there were more than one person living there.
Yes.
Were you able to determine how many people lived there?
I couldn't tell you exactly, but at least 3.
Male or female?
2 of the bedrooms obtained male clothing and 1 of them obtained female clothing, which I believe belonged to Mr. Thompson's mother.
Okay. And then you said there were 4 bedrooms, counting the one in the basement. Did they all have male clothing?
I don't believe the one belonging to Mr. Thompson's mother did.
Well, okay, you said female clothing in that one, right?
Right.
But you referred to 2 other bedrooms having male clothing,
Yes.
but that leaves out a bedroom. Because I'm counting the one in the basement, maybe you aren't.
I guess I'm not completely sure. I believe there was 3 bedrooms upstairs, but I could be wrong.
At any rate, in every bedroom except his mother's, you found male clothing.
Yes,
The driver's license and the letter written to DHS were located in the basement bedroom, is that correct?
the DHS letter, I believe, was upstairs and in a southeast bedroom. And the driver's license was downstairs in the basement.
Now, with the male clothing that was discovered, was there any effort made to see whether that was the same size or clothing that would have been worn by Mr. Thompson or by some other male?
Honestly, I've seen people that are 130 pounds wearing XXX size sweatshirts. So to me, that isn't of investigatory value.
No personal pictures or anything like that that were located and seized?
No, that's not common with any of our search warrants. We would just seize some sort of mail. I'm sure there was other mail there, but we always seize one form of mail showing that the defendant actually lives there. It's actually a bonus when you find their driver's license in the house.
So were there residency papers for other males there as well?
I believe I can't say for sure, but I know that there was at least one other male living at the venue,
And how do you know that?
just through the investigation.
Well, did you find a residency paper there?
I couldn't tell you for sure.
Did you find somebody who admitted that they lived there?
That would be a better question for for Sergeant Jacobs.
Well, you're the one who said that there was a male that was living there. You
Right.
said it was found during this investigation, but you're not telling me how it was found.
The letter, or I'm sorry.
The name of the other male.
There could have been other male. I don't recollect. The investigation has shown that there was at least one other male that lived at the venue with Mr. Thompson and his mother.
You know if that was Garland Davis?
I believe so.
Do you know if Garland Davis lived there or stayed there?
That's always a question whether, I mean,
Okay.
usually people are hopping around, but it appeared to me that he was staying there majority of the time.
And people use different terminology. A lot of individuals, especially, I'll call them in recent times, they'll use the term that I stay here when
Right.
they're talking about where they get their mail and what I would call a residence. Would you agree with that? But they use the term, that's where I stay.
Correct.
And other people say I stay here, but they may actually be there 2 nights a week and they're off somewhere else.
Correct.
So you don't know how many males were staying in that house, do you?
I mean, it's the first time I had been there, so I couldn't tell you for sure, no.
Now, you were looking for a cell phone also, weren't you?
Cell phones are always a bonus.
Didn't find any, did you?
That would be a better question for Sergeant Jacobs.
Did you do the seizure in this case?
No, I basically searched the northeast bedroom. There were other detectives there that were assigned to each individual bedroom.
You've testified about some limitations as far as what's been referred to as firearm residue evidence.
Correct.
First of all, firearm residue is associated with the shooting of a gun. Is that correct?
Yes.
When a gun is shot, there's an explosion. That's what sends the bullet out when the gunpowder explodes, right?
Correct.
And when the bullet goes out the front, powder will go out the front for at least a ways in conjunction with the bullet. Correct?
Yes.
And then there's also, depending maybe on the quality or the upkeep of the gun or the maintenance, there's also typically some residue that collects at the point where the person's holding the gun or in that vicinity. Is that correct?
Yeah, it depends on the environment that you're in when you're firing the gun as well.
Okay. So there are experts in this field that are familiar with those factors, are there not?
Yes,
And those experts, you say they're inconsistent, but there's different quality of experts. Would you agree with that?
I suppose, but it would depend on the environment and the circumstances.
And an expert could certainly evaluate that and say, hey, this is just too much. I can't give you an opinion on this. Or they could give you an opinion. Would you agree with that?
I guess I've never done it, so I couldn't agree with it.
Okay, and isn't the fact that you've never done it because it's too expensive?
No, it's just inconsistent. It's very inconsistent. I don't, people fire guns all the time where I work. I don't know if someone fired a gun while they were wearing the same clothing in a different spot. To me, it's just not good, solid investigatory evidence. I don't want to put the wrong man in prison.
Well, if a individual is in a car, and that car, there's gunshots apparently at a person just outside the car. There's multiple gunshots from a handgun, a semi-automatic within the car. And then that car is located maybe an hour or so later with the engine still warm. You're telling me that that's not a situation where there would be gunshot residue, not even worth testing to look for? In terms of gunshots being fired in that car and the clothing of the person that was wearing who shot it?
Sure.
I guess I'm going to object just because Sergeant Giroux was involved in the search of the residence, the clothing in that residence. As far as the car, Sergeant Giroux wasn't involved in that search.
Well, first of all, he's not an expert in firearm residue to give an opinion on this particular question. I'll sustain the objection based upon the fact that he has been qualified to answer that question.
I'll just ask one more question then. Isn't the reason that you don't do this because it's too expensive?
I'll object, Your Honor.
Then ask and answer. Anything else, Mr. Fedora?
Your Honor, just in response to some of those questions. So Sergeant Giroux, as far as the clothing you located in the residence, you weren't able to determine whose clothing that was, correct?
No,
All right. So you don't know if clothing you were looking at belonged to the defendant?
no, I don't know whose clothing it was. It was just male clothing.
Okay. And then other male clothing, you don't know if that was clothing that belonged to Garland Davis?
Correct.
And so if there was firearm residue, gunshot residue on any of that clothing, first of all, you wouldn't know whose clothing had the gunshot residue. Is that correct?
No,
All right. You also wouldn't be able to determine when a gun was fired.
exactly.
You wouldn't be able to determine how the residue got on the clothing, could come from someone else's gun, correct?
Correct.
All right. The bottom line is it's not helpful. Is that
It isn't.
correct?
To me, in my opinion, it is not.
And it wasn't helpful in this case.
No.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else, Mr. O'Flynn?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down. Our next witness, Mr. Fedora.
Your the
Excuse
people
me.
would call
Excuse me, Your
Brittany.
Honor.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, I almost forgot. I have to ask that Detective Giroux be kept under subpoena. He did interview Lisa Curtis on the 30th. I may need him in regard to that based upon anticipation of what her testimony might be. So I would request that he be kept available, Your Honor. I believe she's going to testify tomorrow.
All right, Detective Giroux, you're still under continuous subpoena.
Thank you, Judge.
Well,
I apologize for interrupting.
Call your next witness, Mr. Fedora.
Thank you, Your Honor. People would call Brittany Ziem pursuant to stipulation of the parties. The testimony will be presented by video. This is former testimony from the last trial.
All right, let's see. You can have a seat at the witness stand. And Ms. Zia, I'm going to ask that you lean forward and speak right into the microphone really loudly so we can hear you, okay?
Okay.
A little louder than that, okay?
All right.
There you go.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ziem. Could you please state your full name for the record, spelling both your first and last name?
Brittany Hussein.
Speak right into the mic.
Brittany Hussein.
And could you also spell your first and last name?
BRITTNIEZIEHM.
And again, Ms. Ziem, I'm going to have you raise your voice as loud as you can, just because unfortunately you have to have you wearing a face shield and the microphones aren't always going to pick you up, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, I'm going to ask you some questions about January 27th, 2018. You testified about this before. Do you remember that date?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, do you recall the address of where you were living?
Yes.
And what was that address?
915 Jackson Street,
And what city and state is that in?
Saginaw, Michigan.
Now, was there anything significant that you saw that day that you can remember?
Yeah.
And what was that? Oh,
There was a car.
Lean forward.
There was a car in the neighborhood and it's just-
Hold on. You have to speak much louder. Yeah, I can't tell either. I can hardly hear her, so you need to turn the volume up a little bit, okay?
yes.
And what was that address?
You're gonna be loud enough. I'm afraid you may be too loud, and let's see how it goes with her.
915 Jackson Street,
And what city and state is that in?
Saginaw, Michigan.
Now, was there anything significant that you saw that day that you can remember?
Yeah.
And what was that?
There was a car.
Lean forward.
There was a car in the neighborhood and it's just-
Hold on. You have to speak much louder, okay? Do you have a mask with you?
I do.
Put the mask on. The record reflected the witness cannot be heard, Mr. O'Farrell, and I'm going to have her take off the shield and put on the mask. And if necessary, we'll have her put the shield back on. They can't hear her right now. I can't hear her right now. So,
Thank you, Judge. I can't hear her either, so.
okay.
There was a car in the neighborhood.
All right. And now the first time you saw
that car, do you recall where it was?
I want to say it was going down Bond.
Okay. And do you know which direction it was going, which street it was going
It
towards?
was going toward Mackinac.
Now, do you recall what the car looked like? Did you get a good look at it at that point?
I did. It
You s-
was a black Dodge Charger.
All right. And where were you at the time?
On my sidewalk.
Okay. And the sidewalk and was that in front of your own residence?
Yes.
And at that point, do you recall how far away the car was? A block, 2 blocks?
2 blocks.
Now, was there anything in particular about the car that you otherwise noticed?
It had chrome striping and tinted windows.
Okay. And do you have any idea what year you thought it might have been?
No.
Now, did the car then proceed to drive by you, or where did it go from there?
I was standing outside still after I seen it. Then I seen it again coming down my street, but it was driving like really, really, really slow.
All right. And then the first time you saw the car, was it driving as slow as the second time?
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, you said so driving slow. Is it driving slower than the speed limit?
Yes.
What's the speed limit in your neighborhood?
Want to say 25?
And so it was driving slower than 25 miles per hour.
Yes.
Now, so the second time you saw it, again, do you recall what direction the car drove in?
It was coming toward me from like Bond area.
Okay. Now, and then after, and so did the car drive by you?
I went in the house.
Okay, so you went in the house at that point?
Yeah.
All right. Now, while you're in the house, was there anything you heard or noticed that came to your attention?
Probably a minute later, I heard a couple shots, sounded like fireworks. I went outside, and when I went outside, I seen that same exact car flying down Porter toward Gratiot.
All right. And do you recall the exact number of gunshots that you heard?
Like 5, maybe.
Okay. Maybe, so it might have been more, might have been less.
Yeah.
And approximately how much time between you hearing the gunshots and then seeing the Charger drive by, are you able to estimate how much time went by?
Like 2 seconds.
Now, was there anything you saw as far as anybody in the car that you were able to see either the times that it drove by?
The sun, when the car drove by on Jackson, the sun had hit the car to where you could kind of see inside the tent, but you couldn't really see like exactly who it was. But they had their hood on and a mask.
All right. Now you say a mask. You able to describe in more depth what kind of mask it was?
Like the one I got on, but it was yellow.
Okay, so like a surgical mask. And were you able to observe any features of the person who's wearing the mask?
No.
Skin color?
Black.
Okay, so it was a black person.
Mm-hmm.
Did it look like a male or a female? Were you able to?
A male.
And if you saw the car again, would you be able to recognize it, do you think?
Yes.
So I just showed you what's been marked as People's Exhibit number 6 for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is it?
That's the car I seen.
And is it a photograph of a car that looks like the car you saw?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, and is that a true and accurate representation of a car that looks like the one that drove by your residence?
Yes.
And let me clarify, when you were able to get the look at the person inside the car, was that the last time it drove by?
Yep, that was the third time, yes.
All right. And did you see anyone else in the car or just that one person?
Just that one person.
And that one person, can you just say again, which seat was that person in?
The driver's seat?
Okay. So you couldn't tell if there was anyone else in the car?
No.
I need you to answer out loud.
No.
Now, after you saw the Charger drive by, again, what did you do after that?
I called 911. I went in the house and called 911.
Okay, so you made that call.
Yes.
And while you're on the phone, were you doing anything in particular?
I was going to possibly where the shooting was. I didn't get all the way there.
Okay, and how were you kind of able to determine that that was where you'd want to go to see if there was a shooting?
The car came from that direction, so I went that way, and everybody was screaming. He shot him.
All right, and then when you got to that location, was there anything in particular you saw?
Body laying in the driveway.
All right, and was there anything on the body that you noted?
They threw a sheet over his body.
Okay, and at some point in time, did you see someone remove the sheet?
Yes, a police officer as soon as he got to the scene.
And did you stick around or did you go back home? Or
I went back home.
Now, if you heard the 911 call that you made, would you be able to recognize that today?
Yes.
You already just asked for permission to play the 911.
That's fine.
And for the record, this is People's Exhibit number 106 for identification.
Seven, 2018, 12:30, 14 p.m.
911, where's your emergency?
I want to report a shooting.
Okay, where are you at?
Well, I heard it at my house in Albany.
Is it in the corner of Bond and Lion?
Yeah,
Okay, do you see the person that shot?
I see the car. She sped down, Porter. It's a black it's a black Dodge Charger. Tinted windows.
The black Dodge Charger is the one that did the shooting?
Yep.
And where did the vehicle go again?
She sped down Porter.
Okay, what direction on Porter were they heading?
Right toward Gratiot area.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you with your phone. What direction did it go?
It went down toward Gratiot.
Porter towards Gratiot. Okay, did you see who was inside the car? Like how many people?
I seen a guy, he had a mask on.
That was the driver?
Yes.
And there was only one person inside the car that you could see?
I believe so. The people just put a sheet over the body.
Okay. We've got several officers responding to the area right now, okay? Hello, you still there?
Right. Yeah, I'm still
You
here.
had somebody put a sheet over the guy that was shot?
Yeah. The police are just like those guys here.
All right, the police are there?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna let you know that the police are there, okay?
All right.
All right, goodbye.
Jen,
Did you recognize the voice?
Yes,
All right, and that was you?
yes,
Okay. And so that's an accurate representation of the phone call that you made to 911?
yes.
People would offer into evidence what's been marked. People's Exhibit 106 for identification.
Mr. O'Farrell,
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 106 will be admitted.
Your Honor, I'm not going to use the map since there may be an issue with the jury, but I'd just ask a clarifying question. Ms. Ziam, so just to clarify, you saw the Charger driving down South Porter Street, is that correct?
Yes,
And that was, and what was the location of where you saw the body again?
in the driveway.
Okay.
On
The
Lion
specific
and Bond.
address. I'm sorry, I was talking over you. The specific address of where you saw the body lying.
On the corner of Lion and Bond in the driveway.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Questions, Mr. O'Farrell?
Ms. Zion, you called 911 to try to assist the police in solving what had happened. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what?
You called 911 to assist with information to help the police.
Yes,
You had no reason to lie. You were trying to give the best information you could.
yes,
And you said that the individual you saw, the driver in that car speeding down Porter, was wearing a yellow mask.
yes,
You said it was like yours, except yours is blue, right?
right,
So it was yellow as opposed to yours being blue. You're sure of that?
yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else, Mr. Fedora?
Yes, Your Honor, if I can just have a minute.
And just want to be clear, Ms. Ziem, is it possible you're not recalling the color of the mask correctly today? Is that possible?
Judge, I object to that question.
Rephrase your question, Mr. Fedora.
Is it possible you don't recall clearly what color the mask was?
I believe that was the same question, so it would be the same objection, Mr. Fedora. Do you want to rephrase your question somehow?
Is your recollection of what had occurred better today than it was when you actually witnessed the events?
Is it better today?
Yeah, do you remember things better today than you did then?
No.
Okay. About 3 years have passed.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
And so is it possible there are things you don't remember now you might have remembered at the time?
Yes.
Okay. And with that in mind, are you certain as far as the color of the mask?
Not 100%.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. O'Farrell?
No, Judge.
You may step down. Counsel approach the bench also. Any other witnesses you intend to produce today?
No, Your Honor, but there are some stipulations it asked to publish to the jury at this point. Parties previously stipulated to the admission of peoples 42, 43, and 44. Those were admitted into evidence. And again, people are asking to publish those.
All right. May do so.
Thank you.
All right, if I may, there's fine print on these that the one is dated July 2nd of 2014. That's Exhibit 42. Exhibit 43 is dated June 23rd of 2014. Exhibit 44 is dated October 9th of 2014. That's also on these documents that we're stipulating to, Judge. I know the jury can see that, but I want to.
All right, well, with all exhibits, they'll have a chance to look at them in the jury room anyhow after trial, Mr. Farrell, but you can clarify for the record at this point in time, they won't be able to see that, and maybe they will be able to see.
Judge, if I may, I would suggest instead of doing it on the monitor, which is so perhaps we could do it the old-fashioned way and let the jurors look at them.
Okay, Mr. O'Farrell, that's gonna take a while to pass them around, but we have no more witnesses today, so I guess we can do that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
That's fine. Well, it's okay. Anything else, Mr. Fedora?
I just want to make sure, did all the jurors get a chance to look at it? Nothing further, Your Honor. People don't have any additional testimony to offer at this time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break for the evening, and once again, I ask you not to discuss the case with anyone nor yourselves. And should there be any news articles, do not read or listen to or watch any of them. Have a pleasant evening. We'll see you back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. All right? To be seated. Record should reflect the jury is not present now. Anything for the record, Mr. Fedora?
Yes, Your Honor, just one thing I noticed in that video, I kind of addressed this in a sidebar, but the exhibit numbers with respect to what I showed Ms. Zium, and as well as the 911, those are marked differently for this trial. So I just asked the court if I can put it on the record tomorrow, beginning of the trial, that the exhibit referred to as People 6 is, and I don't know that I can put on the record the new exhibit number for this trial.
What is the exhibit?
And I haven't looked that up yet. I just know it's different.
Has it been admitted this trial?
Correct, yes. The 911 was admitted by stipulation. I believe it's number 2. Photograph. The photograph has not been admitted yet, but it will be.
I have no problem stipulating to the numbers. The same exhibit has a different number. I think that would be clarification for the jury, and I'll stipulate to it, but I would like to have a stipulation that the parties agree to it rather than Mr. doing it unilaterally.
I'll let you and he figure out how you want it done, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. So I don't know exactly what the both of you are saying at this point in time.
Well, all I'm pointing out is that what was referred to in the video is an exhibit that's being offered in this trial, but there's a different number attached to it.
I understand that, but I said as far as how you want to do that and put it in front of the jury, I'll let the two of you figure it out and tell me what you're comfortable with. He's saying he wants it the same thing you does, but he don't know how he wants it done. And I'm saying because it's you and his issue, I'm gonna let you two figure out how you want it done. That's what I'm saying. Okay? What you did was you put the bowl of Jell-O on my desk and said, make something of it, Judge. And I'm saying, you figure it out and let me know what you want done. Okay?
That's fine, thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. O'Farrell?
No, yeah.
I will stand at recess till 9 a.m., gentlemen, and you figure out that bowl